Let's make a Windows form application using Visual Studio 2013. I'm going to close the Start page, File, New, Project. I'm going to make sure that I have C# selected and a Windows Form application. It gives me a default name of Windows Form Application 1. I'm going to change that. And I'm also going to browse and find out where I'm saving this at. It's in my Visual Studio 2013 Projects folder. Okay, I'll cancel that and say that that's a good place to save this project. When I click OK, it's going to go off and start building some of my code for me. Windows Form is an alternative to the WPF XAML way of creating a form. What we'll do in this case is that we will just see how to create a basic form with controls on it. Over on the left hand side, by default, I have Server Explorer, Toolbox, Data Sources, and what I want to do is I want to click on Toolbox and I'm going to pin that down. There's a little icon here. If I click on it, it will lock that into place eventually. And in my toolbox I've got a list of all Windows Forms controls or just the common controls. I also have a list of other types of controls which I can use. I'm going to go with the common controls for now, and when I expand that I'll see that there's several things that a lot of different choices that I can use. One is a label, and a label just displays information. You notice I have it selected here and over here on the right hand side on the bottom. Now if this is arranged differently, say you've got this moved around and you've got the properties moved around and some other things moved around, you want to get those back to the way they were. What you can do is go to Windows, Windows, Reset Windows Layout. Are you sure you want to restore the default window layout for the environment? Yes. Do that and it'll put everything back the way it was. So let me go back here to Toolbox and lock that in. So I've got a label. I'm going to make sure that I have the label selected, which means I've clicked on it, and over here on the right hand side it says it's label 1. And label 1 is under the System, Windows, Forms, and under the Forms there's a label control, and this is just one example of a label control, and there are a lot of properties to it, and the properties describe this label or control. So I can change the properties. Let's make some changes here. How about the appearance? We can change the back color. Click on this little drop down and let's go with the web color. Make it maroon, even though it makes the text difficult to see. What else can we change? We can change the font to, and takes a little while when it's first initializing. Let's just choose one. Okay. Now, again, this just displays information. Now, one of the things that I want to do on these, well, first let's arrange these alphabetically. All of this list of properties that you can change with your control. And at the very top, what I can do is that I can change the name of this control. Right now it's called, oops, I want to make sure I've got this selected right. Okay, I'm back to the label. I was on the form for a while. Okay, so on the label, what I can do is I can change the name of this to something more descriptive, and I'll call it test_control label 1. Okay, that's a terrible name, but we'll use it. And I can also change what it says on here too. And this, what it says, is listed under, I'm going to scroll down to find it, under text. So right now it says label 1, and I can change that to say whatever I want. Press the enter key and it changes it for me. So we can do this with any of our controls. Now let's go find what else do we want in here? How about text box? And a text box is used to enter information. So again, we can go change the name of this. So I've got the properties listed alphabetically. I'm going to scroll to the very top, and under the name I'm going to say number 1, and there's nothing, it doesn't say anything in here, so by default it's blank. Okay, and let's add a button. So scroll back up a little. These are alphabetical too. Add this button and what it will display is calculate, and go back up to names, change the name to calculate. Okay, and let's put another button on here, and this button, move it over and change the name of it to close. Change the text to close form. Okay. And let's put in one more label in here. And again, this label is just for display. Let's change the font on this, something a little bigger. And okay, and we're going to, instead of having it say label, well, first let's change the name of it to display, and change the text to display nothing. Okay. Okay, so it looks like it disappeared. Let's go ahead and on the Windows form, let's change what it displays on the Windows form. Right now it says form 1. We want the text to display okay, you notice it changed this name on the form. this text on the form. Okay, now let's go ahead and run this. Debug and start debugging. And it builds, compiles. Alright, and it creates the form. Okay, so I don't have any coding in here, so right now I can't do anything. So it just displays. So I will close this out and go back. Now I have my form designed the way I want. What I can do is that I can now put in the calculations or any coding that I want. And the best way to do that is that for now, what I'll do is I'll just use these buttons for the coding. And let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to double click on this button. So close form, I'm going to double click on it, and it sends me to the coding window. And this method is private. We'll learn what that is later. It's void, which means it doesn't return anything. And you remember that we gave it the name of close. And it says when you click close, do whatever's between this beginning paren, squiggly brace, and the ending one. So whenever you click on the close button, go ahead and execute this code. And here's the code that I will give it. So when you click on this close button, here's what we want to do. I will type in the code close. So it says this is form.close, and guess what it will do? Okay, so good thing about this is that we can run this at any time. Debug, start debugging, and when we run our application, we're going to say we click on this button that we named close, and it executes that program, which is it closed the form. Okay, so that's our first bit of coding. Well, let's go back to our form design, and I'm going to double click on the calculate button now. And in my calculate button, I'm going to do a calculation, and we're going to take something from the text box and display it in the label. So that whenever I click on this button that I named calculate, go ahead and execute the code between this curly brace and this curly brace. So in between there, I'm going to type in the code. And what this says is that there's a label called display, and in the text property, go ahead and add, or go ahead and assign, this is an assignment character, not an equal sign. It says go ahead and assign whatever text is in the num1 text box. So we call the text box num1, and we call that label display. So let's go ahead and run this. I'm going to save all, and I'm going to run this, debug, start debugging, and I should change where that displays at. And let's put anything we want to in here. And then I click calculate, and it puts it into the label. So if we look at this code, remember that this label we call display, and this property is the text property, or what you see. And num1 is the name of the calculate button, and text is the property of this text box is called num1, and the text is what you see, or that we type into num1. So we typed into anything, and when we clicked the button, it took that text that was in the text box and assigned it to this label text property. Okay, but we said we were going to do a calculation, so let's do that. Let's close this out and let's change this. Okay, delete that and let's, okay, let's do this. First we're going to assign it to that label so we can keep that the same, and the name of that label was display, and it's the text property so that we can see it. So that's what we're going to assign it to. But let's make a calculation, and you remember that the name of that was num1, right? Yeah, num1.txt, and oops, capital T. It's a case sensitive, so that's important. And say we're going to take that number that we typed in. Say we typed in the number 5. What we want to do is that we want to multiply, or use an asterisk to multiply by the so we can take this calculation, take this number from the text box, multiply it by 2, and store it into the text property of our display label. But there's a problem, and let's see if it tells us what it is. Operator cannot be applied to operands of type string and int. Well, this is a property type called string, and we'll learn about that later, and this is a property type called integer. So this is how we can change this. What I can do is I can convert this. Let me unpin this. We don't need this anymore. I can convert to an integer type, 16, 32, 64. Well, this is a pretty small integer, so I'll take the smallest that I've got. Put it in parentheses of what we want to convert, and we want to convert that that string from our text box into an integer, multiply it with another integer, and now let's convert it back into a string. Okay. And to do this, let's put this in parentheses. Okay. Okay. So first we convert it into a number, multiply it, and then we convert it back into a string, and then we store it into the label. Okay, let's go ahead and try this. Debug, start debugging, and when it comes up, let's type in the number 4. Should multiply that by 2 and display it in our label down here. So let's see if it does that. Okay, so that works. Okay, this is just a demonstration of Windows Form application. Now, after we're done with this and we've got everything, and we did our save all to make sure we've got it saved, we ran it to make sure that it ran okay. So we have everything we need. The next thing we need to do is to find it and zip it up. So let me close out of this. I'm done with my Windows Form, with my IDE, and I'm going to go track down where I had that at. So I had it under Visual Studio 2013, and it was under projects, right? If I look under projects, and there it is, Module 2 Practice. Let me go ahead and drill down in here just so you can see that it's all there. all my files and everything in it created, and everything is there that I need. So let me back up to this top level, and since I'm using Windows, I'm sure the other OSs have something similar, but since I'm using Windows, what I can do is I can right click on this and I can send to a compressed zip folder. And not only that, but I can rename this, and I can change it to okay, and that's it. And then I can take that and upload that as my assignment. Okay, that will do it for now.